Happy Saturday, everyone. Yeah, my name's Alicia. I am the Bristol organiser of Codebar. So I've been running Codebar in Bristol for 2 years now. I'm sorry, there's more people in the waiting room. Yeah, I've been running Bristol Codebar, as I said, for 2 years now. Absolutely love it. Obviously, even moving all online, it's still gone really, really well. But outside of Codebar, I'm the founder of a tech recruitment company called Socially Responsible Recruitment. We're down in Bristol, but cover Bristol, London, and do the whole realm of tech recruitment. But we are a very socially conscious recruitment company, hence the name, Socially Responsible Recruitment. We have 5% of our profits to underrepresented charities. I run something called Women Rock, which is a blog for underrepresented folk who want to share their stories for other people to follow. And I've also got my own tech startup as well called Technology Volunteers, where we pair developers, project managers, absolutely anyone in tech who want to give their time to charities, schools, and local groups as well. So that is actually officially launching in a couple of weeks, but just a couple of crazy things that I do. But yeah, I absolutely love Codebar, love running it, and always here to help. So yeah, I don't want this to be too formal, but more of a discussion. But I think first of all, I just want to go through something that I wrote a couple of weeks back. Like, if I was a junior developer, from my experience, I've done tech recruitment for 8 years now, and placed people all the way from someone who has got a 2-1 degree or has done a boot camp. I've helped someone who's a Codebar student find a job, and then I've placed CTOs. So it's been it's been fun. So yeah, always want to help. But I said, first off, as I said, full disclosure, I cannot code. I've tried multiple times and I'm not very good at it, to be honest. Yeah, I wish I could, but yeah, I'm just not that great. So just like my thoughts, because I feel a lot of empathy towards junior developers, especially, well, at the moment, obviously with everything that's happened in 2020, and because the rug has somewhat been pulled on the market, and from what I've seen, most of those are affected are junior developers. However, saying that, it is really, really picking up and we're getting really busy. If people, is there just a real echo my end, sorry, or is people just not on mute? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, I think it's coming from someone who's unmuted.
I think you can, if you're the host, you'll be able to mute her.
How do I do that? Sorry.
You can do like mute all.
If you click on the blue, on the top right-hand corner of their chat.
Right-hand corner.
It's like a blue chat bubbly thing. Oh, let's.
I don't know. Sorry.
Right.
If you're on the user thumbnail.
Oh, do you mean on the gallery view?
It's probably, I'm on gallery view.
I think you have a mute all button as well, which probably is the easiest. Just like mute everyone and then they can unmute themselves when they need to talk.
Oh, I don't know how to do it. As I said, see, I'm not very good at this kind of thing. Yeah, leave me to sell things, not technology. Yeah, where was I at? Sorry. So there's a lot of people obviously that have been furloughed, a lot of recruiters that have been furloughed, and there's less activity among the ranks to help developers. So with less opportunity and less support, we're thinking, what could juniors do? So this is just sort of my advice. If I was to be asked a question, don't take it as gospel. This isn't me telling you you have to do this stuff. It's just some insights into what I would do in sort of no particular order. Obviously, there's some people out of jobs at the moment. I mean, if it was me, I would do anything to sort of get a job, whether it be work at a supermarket, working in a hospital. I try and do something that gives me time to search for something new and further my skills, and why not racking up debt and make sure that I'm doing something. Also sort of demonstrating initiative and passion. I mean, what I do on the sidelines is, I think there was something posted the other day about loads of open source projects. It was on the Codebar Slack channel. There are so many open source projects to get involved in, and I'll share some links of things that I know. But I'd start making something myself, whether it was build a new React Native app or absolutely anything, so I can showcase the code in like GitHub or Bitbucket, and make sure it all looks tidy and ready to share with prospective employers. And because employers love people taking initiative, especially when you're self-taught, I think that is a massive thing. And I love a self-taught developer myself. I love working with them and representing them as a recruiter, because, and not to say people that have gone to university aren't as passionate as an enthusiastic, but I think when you're self-taught, you've really sort of gone above and beyond to follow your yourself, and you've gone out there and sort of shown that initiative to go and do that. So definitely, as I said, employers love to see people that you're going above and beyond and trying new things. Obviously you're all here, which Codebar is an amazing Slack channel, Stack Overflow forums, and ask people in those communities what they found useful, and join those communities. I think there is a real need for a dedicated mentor group. I mentor groups. I know obviously Codebar is a brilliant way to learn how to code, and our community is very safe and you can ask any questions. But something potentially outside, I'd love to try and find a mentor group because I get a lot of people reach out to me and say, with people that are on the same journey as me, so hopefully if you're all learning together that you can mentor each other. So if anyone knows of any sort of mentor groups outside of Codebar, that would also be amazing to share with people. Social media, it's the devil. I mean, I don't know whether anyone watched The Social Dilemma recently. I mean, on Netflix, I turned off all notifications of everything, and made me a little bit scared in terms of social media. But social media is a very powerful tool. LinkedIn can be a really exhausting place sometimes, and I'm saying that from someone who is very heavily social. I've got my name out there quite a lot, but it's consistency with social media. And LinkedIn over the past sort of 5 months has been so powerful for people who have lost their jobs, who are looking for jobs. Put yourself to open to work. So when you're on LinkedIn, you get sort of a green bubble around your name that says open to work. Make sure you're doing that. And if you're not on LinkedIn, get on there. And I've got loads of things I can help you with in terms of how to set up a LinkedIn profile. I'm more than happy to help anyone with that. But posting things on social media that you're looking for a job, comment on people's posts if they're advertising for a role, and connect with as many people in the industry as possible. Follow the companies. You're all going to have a dream company that you'd love to work for, whether it be like my dream company if I to work for is what three words at the moment. Like, I love their technology and what they're doing in terms of like math stuff. They're a wicked company, and if I was developer, I'd love to work for them. And follow the company so that you really want to work for, to keep up to date with changes that are happening within their business, their hiring, and just research them as much as possible. What else? Behaviour interviews. When it comes to interviews, and again we can get onto that, but there's a shed load of info online that will help. I mean, start thinking about commonly asked questions included in interviews. I think a lot of people, when it comes to behaviour, they're not too fussed anymore. I think behaviour interviews have sort of died down a little bit. I mean, the worst interview question that you could probably get is, tell me where you see yourself in 5 years. And I'm sure everyone would agree, because no one knows where they're going to be in 5 minutes, let alone in 5 years. But some companies are going to ask behavioural questions. So make sure that you're preparing for them in the background, as well as sort of doing your coding stuff. I've mentioned mentors, and yeah, open-mindedness as well. And I've been helping the students at Maiden Academy recently, who are down in the Southwest. If you're out of work and you're really struggling to find a junior developer role, say everyone wants to work with JavaScript. JavaScript is like the hottest thing at the ever at the moment. Be more open-minded, like within a, say, a software house, etc., there is testers, there are support engineers, they might be looking for a Laravel developer rather than the latest React developer. Be really open-minded. What you want to do is get your foot in the door. Of course, the ideal scenario is that you land the job as a React developer, because that's really what you want to do, and not saying to not pursue that first of all. But if there's an opportunity within a tech company to be a support engineer, to be a test analyst, etc., then definitely explore those options, because as soon as you're in the door, then the world's your oyster a little bit, and you can progress and learn through the ranks with the right company, and move into your ideal position. Reach out to recruitment companies, whether you love or hate them. There's some bad ones, and I'm not going to sort of fluff up the fact there are some awful recruiters in the world. I've been lucky enough to hear some very lovely horror stories recently, but there's some great recruiters out there that genuinely care about people, put people over profit, and really want to help people get into a role. So reach out to some great recruiters, and I'm more than happy to share companies that I would always recommend in different areas of the UK, over in say France and Spain. I know a few, so more than happy to sort of do introductions of some really good recruiters that I would highly rate. And some recruiters have been furloughed. I know quite a few companies have made redundancies and furloughed. When we're coming to an end, I think, as we kind of are now, but could be completely wrong. Boris might throw us into whatever next week. You want to make sure that your CV is on their desk for when they return. My CV personally would look like a masterpiece. It might not have as much in the experience section, obviously, if I was being a junior developer, but I'd make sure it stands out. So from one thing as well, just to know, please don't get paid to get your CV done. Like, you really don't need to. People that are out there at the moment, and I'm probably sorry if anyone charges this, but I don't think it's necessary for you to pay a lot of money. And of course, there are people that will do it for a reasonable price, and it is a good investment to invest in your CV. But I'm not saying research the people that you're gonna give money to do your CV. If you are, but you really don't need to. Again, connect with a really good recruiter who is going to support you, who will help you with this, with your CV. You don't need, when I say a masterpiece, you don't need drawings or pictures of yourself or everything on there. If you want to keep it as anonymous as possible, then absolutely do that. Make it really simple, make it punchy. And as I said, because as a junior developer, you're not going to have a huge amount of experience in that section, but add all the info you've done. If you're training at Codebar, add that in, share links, share things that you love to do, why you want to work for that company. And maybe it might be useful to do a CV session this afternoon, or another time. I'm more than happy to do a CV session with people. There's loads of questions coming through, so I'm just going to ignore them for a second. And yeah, then come to applications. So I'd make sure that my application stands out. If you're a junior developer, you're probably a little bit guilty of applying for absolutely everything because you just want a job. If you're going to do that, then absolutely do it. But you need to be researching everything about that company and make sure that your application goes above and beyond. So like, what 3 words, for example? So I got lost a couple of weeks ago when I was in Scotland, and I used what 3 words. I followed them on Instagram, on Twitter, on everything. I found out like their new investments and who they were being invested by, researched them as much as possible so that I could write the best cover letter demonstrating that I've taken the time to understand what they do, explaining why you'd want to work for them, that yeah, you might not be the complete finished article, but this shows my passion, my enthusiasm, and these are the extra things that I do. So if you are going to apply for absolutely everything, sometimes I'd say it might be a waste of time if your CV isn't up to scratch and you haven't done your research and sort of done a cover letter, or at least tailored your CV depending on the role. Because if you're going for a JavaScript role and they're hiring for a PHP developer, you need to, but you might have that PHP experience and you've just gone, oh, I'm just going to fire my CV out to everyone and hope for the best, then they're probably not going to look into your CV too much. Perhaps relocate. Obviously at the moment there is a lot of remote working options, but also a lot of companies are heading back to the office now. There's a lot of companies in Bristol, in London, in Manchester, in the big cities that are recruiting, and the companies that are going back to offices want you to be in the office. Of course, there's some fully remote. This is great, and I know we've already spoke about remote working for juniors, but possible relocation for a job, I completely get is not for everyone. But think about it. If you're coming to the end of your lease on a flat, for example, and you haven't got too many commitments, then relocating, I think there was a stat that 75 people a week are moving from other cities to Bristol. I mean, I'm Bristol born and bred, so woo, us. But think about relocating as a potential for a job. Try and find things to like that you enjoy other than job search. Don't let it consume you completely. It can be a really exhausting place to be, applying for a job. Don't just sit all day applying for roles. You'll go mad. Do something that you still enjoy, and try not to stress about it too much. Things don't always happen immediately. Accept the market for what it is. Do things that are constructive to find work, but don't be too hard on yourself. We have just navigated through and potentially still going through a global pandemic. So if you're a junior, like, hang in there. We're going to come out the other side. The market will be picking back up, and organizations will be looking for people with your skills, because development is never going to go anywhere. Well, tech as a whole is never going to go anywhere. We're only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, job rises have increased by 36% since June to last week. I think that was announced. So it's getting busier. Whilst me personally, I don't have a huge amount of junior roles on my desk, that could change very quickly. So it won't hurt for you to, as I said, send me over your CV as it is. I'm more than happy to, as I said, introduce you to people, help with CVs, help with applications, absolutely anything. So that's sort of, yeah, my advice from me to you. But I know there's a load of questions. I think let's open it up, because you don't want to hear my Bristolian accent all the whole session. So yeah, has anyone got any questions at all that I haven't covered?
I have one.
Yes.
I've been looking specifically at design agencies for my first tech job.
Okay.
And a lot of the sites I've been looking at don't have listings. They have, send us your CV if you think you'd be a good fit for us. And I'm not really sure how to write a letter to go along with it when it's not for a specific role.
Okay, so when they're just sort of always hiring and everything like that. Exactly the same as, even though you might not necessarily see, say for example, the tech stack, like, again, I'm going to revert again to a JavaScript developer. So they're not advertising a specific dev role. You can easily look them up in terms of what they do. If you can go on LinkedIn and just type in the company, the first thing that will come up will be, well, not the first thing that come up, but 9 times out of 10 the developers will come up, and you can have a look at their profiles to see what skill set they've got. But writing a cover letter would be exactly the same whether there was a job or not. You still research the company, you say about what you've been doing in your whether you've been learning this or learning that. Tell them about yourself. And even though the skill set might not be an exact match, say I'm skilled in JavaScript, React, but I've picked that up myself through codebar, and more than happy to cross skill into absolutely anything that I need to. I've taken the initiative to teach myself this code. I'm not set in stone with working with React. I'm really open to any other languages if need be. So still do things exactly the same, and yeah, it might not be the perfect match, but people are looking outside the box a little bit more now, and with speculative sort of applications, they do keep your CV on file and will get back to you if it's of interest. And if you really want to work for them, badger them, honestly. Like, make them see your name, whether you connect with the CEO on LinkedIn. And I know this can be, you've got to be quite confident to do that, but connecting with them and sending them a message, like, they're not going to tell you to off. They're going to acknowledge that you've connected with you, you've taken the time, you've sent them a message, not necessarily with the CEO or the CTO or the lead developer. If you really want to work for them, then go above and beyond, and they need to see your name. Follow up, call them, email them. Like I said, it's not face to face. You're not gonna stroll into their office in these times. I mean, I hired our office manager, and she literally walked into our office, and I hired her on the spot, because it's quite ballsy to walk into an office and say, can I have that job? But yeah, and I get that's a confidence thing, but as I said, they're human beings as well. They're not gonna tell you. They might say no, not right now, but they know your name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love how someone said the West Country accent is lovely. Not when I say, here, come over here, Bristol. I'm joking. I only do that after I have a cider.
My mum's from Somerset, so it's like, yeah, lovely accent.
Thank you.
I did actually have a question. Yeah, what would you say to someone who doesn't have any tech experience in their background and has just come out of a boot camp? Should we be building up our CVs with a lot of like volunteering and mentoring roles and making sure that we have a lot of projects to show off? Because I look back over my work history and I don't really have anything that is very, very relevant to tech. Is there anything else I could do, or any other advice you'd have?
First of all, I think when people are sort of changing careers, they tend to just leave off what you've done previously. So say, for example, you were, I don't know, a HR administrator, and then you were a PA, for example. A lot of people just think, because I'm applying for a tech job, I'll just leave off the last 10 years of work that I've done. Don't do that. Add it on. Yes, it's not necessarily relevant as such to being a developer, but it shows that you have worked in a you've worked in a work environment, you've worked around people, you've gone through processes, etc., etc. So don't leave that off. In terms of like your tech experience, just add absolutely everything that you've done. I'm thinking that depending on the boot camp that you've gone through, you have set up your own GitHub, that you've obviously learned all these new skills. Just add absolutely everything on there. If you've done any volunteering opportunities or gifted your time, as said with tech volunteers that I'm launching, they're desperate for, so many charities are desperate for people with those skills to come and help them for free. So even things like that you've done, as said, on GitHub you can search for open source projects to contribute and get involved in, and 100% do that in your spare time. Does that sort of answer your question? Like, you can send me your CV if you'd like, and I can help you with it, but don't remove everything that you've done previously off your CV.
Super, thank you. That's a really great answer, because yeah, that is something that you have the instinct to do, you know. I'll leave off all that stuff, but yeah, I will definitely be in touch. Thank you. Yeah,
and I mean, in terms of like, if you've had 20 jobs, that's a bit extreme, but your last sort of, if you think about a hiring manager or who's looking at your CV, it's going to be, so A4 page, typically we look at the first 3 quarters of the first page. of a CV. So always think about your first half or your first 3/4 being that standout. Your name, you don't need to put your date of birth, you don't need to put a picture of yourself, you don't need to put your address on there, you don't need to put national insurance. Don't do that, because if you put it online, then anyone could grab your national insurance number. I've seen it. Then your summary, why you, who are you, think about great words, don't just copy and paste something off the internet. Like, who are you? Bring out your personality in that summary and why you want to be a developer or why you want to do that work. And then straight away, skills. So a bullet point of skills, so JavaScript, PHP, Laravel, JS. I'm currently working through AWS certification example, and then your bootcamp work. So in your first thing, and then work backwards from there. Try and keep it. There's a rule that it's got to be 2 pages. It doesn't at all, and it's happy to be 3. Going over 3 is, yeah, it's just a bit annoying to read through so many. And as I said, on page 3 is not necessarily relevant for today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Is just, it's not just about hardcore computing skills that you have. It's often other skills that you can bring in. So like, you know, the fact that you're in used to be in HR or something is a bonus, because it means that if it's an organization that might be involved in HR software, you stand at quite an advantage. But also soft skills and things, you know, quite often developers, particularly in the junior level, they will be coming in and they will be having to pair and work in collaborative teams, and you know, employers want to know about their abilities to work with other people as well. So that anything that can demonstrate that is a help as well.
100%. Like, soft skills are key, because yeah, as I said, you've got that experience from whether it be mentoring, and yeah, you might not have done mentoring as a developer, but you've done mentoring in the past, or you've got involved in interviews previously. It can add, yeah, loads of value.
Presentation.
So yeah, definitely soft skills. Yeah. I've really got to answer this question. Have you got any advice for over 40s or 50s switching to tech and getting their first jobs? Like, age discrimination happens, and it really shouldn't, and it blows my mind. I think the oldest person that I placed in a job was 62. They weren't a career changer, but they were older. Did my client care? Not at all. Did they think that they were going to be retiring in the next 10 years? No, because they've got that extra, should we call them life skills behind them, that can add so much value. I think the typical developer in the UK is between 25 and 35 at the moment. And straight away, that is creating a culture of the same people. So why wouldn't a company who have older people in the team, like, you've got that, and not necessarily maturity, because there are people that are 30 who are very mature. Sorry, I was going to try and mute everyone again, but I don't know how to do it, do we? So if you are switching to tech and getting your first job, no matter what age you are, whether you're 30 or 55, it's what you put in is what you're going to get out. So going through, whether you're going to self-teach yourself, whether you're going to go through a boot camp, etc., is exactly the same as if you were switching tech and getting your first job, no matter what age. And if a company is going to age discriminate you, then you don't want to work for them anyway. So yeah, you'll find out very quickly as to not. But don't think just because you're older and a lot more probably wiser in your years that you're not going to have the opportunities as someone who's 30 is going to get, because that's not the point at all. Absolutely. So I said, yeah, people need to understand the value of diversity and avoid groupthink. Diversity is more than gender and ethnicity. 100%. I had a client who in lockdown were actually hiring for 8 graduate developers, and I was like, music to my ears because I'd been approached by so many grads, but then they said to me, we actually want 8 2-1 grads. So I said, oh, so you want 8 clones then for your team? So you're not going to look at people who are career changing, you're not going to look at people who've got a 2-2, and also if you can get them for the top 5 universities, that'd be great. And do you know what I said? I said, no thanks, I'll go elsewhere and go and recruit for somebody else, because I wasn't going to do that, because yeah, as I said, they probably are going to get 8 white 2-1 grads from Cambridge, Oxford, Bristol, and that's not diversity. So I don't know how long I've got left. Sorry.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Career, because I'm in a situation that I was cut in the middle of the lockdown while I was starting to apply to job. I'm a front-end developer, and I'm self-taught. So this made me the work harder because finding a job. I started looking so regularly from February. So from February until now, I got only 10 interviews. The thing is that the number of people is so high. This is not to discourage anyone, just to say keep trying, because the number of people apply is so huge that at a certain point they need to select people without even know the person. And I found out that for those who I went in a higher stage of the interview, they were everything that was the added value, so the personality, the experience, and everything was fine. But in the end, their decision was on technical skills, which I can understand. Being self-taught can be also a prejudice sometimes because a boot camp or a university can have in a certain way a guarantee. But in the end, I think the situation is so hard also because there's a lot of people that was made redundant. So they are fake beginner in a certain way. So how to stand out, that's the point.
Yeah, and I do get that. Like, and don't get me wrong, our applications have actually gone down a little bit. I mean, in lockdown, I actually wrote a post about it. So I had 37 jobs and I have 4,157 applications. So I can't do quick maths. So I was going to say, let's do quick maths. But about 144? No, way more than that. But yeah, about between 150 and 200 applications per role. So yeah, you can imagine this sort of sheer amount of applications that recruiters and also companies are obviously getting through. In terms of like standing out, it's literally everything that I've said. It's putting together, doing your research, following up. Someone said, how pushy is too pushy? I mean, you'll know as a person, what do you not like in terms of pushiness? Don't do that. But do something, get your name out there. As I said, connect with them on LinkedIn, follow them on Twitter, DM them if you want to on Twitter, absolutely go for it. They need to see your name and the real reason why you want to work for them. And I think going back to your point about interviews, I mean, you could have interviews, but interviews will only, if you don't get the job, it's crap. Okay, like it's such a horrible feeling when you don't get a job if you go through a couple of stages, but it's confidence building, because then when you go to your second interview, you'll absolutely, hopefully, fingers crossed, smash it, because you've gone through that interview process. You know how to do a technical interview. You kind of know what sort of questions are going to be asked in the format. So don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get the first job, the second job, the third job. It will come, and all of these interviews are just helping with your practice. I think I've got, I actually put this on here. I don't know whether I can, and I probably want to end with this. This quote, but we'll ask a couple more new questions first of all before I start. Before I leave you with this quote. I think we've got a couple more minutes, but 100%, it will just, yeah, you'll just get more confident, you'll know how interviews work, and then on to the next. What is the best way to contact me? Via carrier pigeon or owl? No, I'm joking. This is my email address. I don't know, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. I think everything's being shared after, and I'm going to share absolutely loads of stuff from said CVs to interview practice. So I will share everything, but that's my Twitter and my email. Are there any other questions? There's quite a few on here, if anyone hasn't got them that we can work through.
There was a question, I think, don't know whether Tom's still here, but he might be able to explain it better, but he was asking a question about if you make loads of small contributions to lots of different things, how can you best explain what you've done without going into detail? If he's still on the call, he can probably explain it better than I did. I was interested in the answer to that as well.
Yeah, maybe the person, I've just found the comment, maybe the person making. Do you mean, yeah, Tom, if you are on here, do you mean like on GitHub you contribute towards a lot of projects? Basically, any contribution is a good contribution is probably my answer, whether it's big or small. And of course, you don't want to put absolutely everything on there. So if you make a different contribution like every week, you can't put absolutely anything, but share your GitHub profile. Like automatically, they'll be able to go on there and pick out some of the things that they want to see. Any example code that you've got, if you've built your own, I know, I think his name was Mike, he was on the last session, and he's not a developer, but is building his own iOS app. Share that, like people want to see it. So yeah, share as much as you can, but don't share absolutely everything if it's crazy. Yeah, it feels like finished products count way more than the small parts. I mean, doing from start to finish is always going to be like a big green tick, isn't it? And people are going to like to see from start to finish, but that doesn't, not everyone has got time to do something from start to finish, or maybe is capable of doing something from start to finish just yet. So yeah, if it's just small parts, then it's better than nothing. So share sort of the key things if you're applying for a company that you think that they'd be most interested to see. As I said, if you've got your GitHub profile on there, then they can sort of do the searching. This is a really good one. Is it better to have a formal looking page CV or an eye-catching colourful CV? Honestly, make it as simple as possible. A lot of hiring managers, recruiters, companies, we have like online portals. So even though you're applying for a role, the worst thing that can happen is if it comes through in a different format, like what you see and you think it looks brilliant, we might not see, or a company might not see, depending on the systems that they use, because it might be automatically uploaded through something called Greenhouse or Workable, which are recruitment sort of CRMs that hold a CV, and they will then take the information off the CV to have it on like a portal, and the hiring manager can then see it. And then for us, we sometimes get CVs that you open them and it's got one sentence and you're like, where's the rest of it? So keep it as simple as possible. It's always nice to think that you want to put your picture on there, you want to make it pink or orange or blue, and add loads of jazzy things to it, unless you're going to apply for Monzo, add a couple of emojis. But it's just keep it really simple, because it's your chance and you want it to come through in the best format as possible, and adding loads of funky things to it can just affect how it comes through on the other end. So unless you're 100% sure, that's a really good one. Yeah, try putting your CV through a free ATS and see if it's formatted correctly is a good thing to try. So yeah, I hope that helps. Has anyone got any last question before we go? What is a typical junior dev interview like? Have we got any, is Bruno on here, or any sort of managers who do interviews on here. I said I don't do interviews myself. I mean, I get a lot of interview feedback. Is anyone on here to talk about what a typical interview would look like for a junior developer?
I do.
Sophie?
Yes, yeah.
Amazing. Would you mind sharing?
Oh, I don't know how to change the view.
Just at the top on view, you can do speaker view, gallery view.
There we go. I can just see you still. That's weird. Can I pin my video? Is that going to work? Can everyone see me, or is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just might have to stare at my face, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I do interviews. I work at Clio, which is one of the sponsors. So we are a financial chatbot. So yeah, I've only been there for about 6 months, and interestingly, I'm one of the most junior devs in the team, but I've been helping with interviews for senior roles over the last few months. But whatever the role, the structure of the interview doesn't change. We're just looking for different things at different levels. Thanks, Darren. I wasn't actually planning to talk, I was planning to just observe, so excuse me if I seem a little bit flustered. And I'm also a career changer, so I know what it's like to be a career changer as a dev. I know how nerve-wracking it is. I changed career in my early 30s. Since then, I've also helped people learn to code, so some of you might know me from Makers Academy, as I was a coach there for a couple of years. So what an interview looks like, so we have a series of rounds. So the first round, we have an in-house recruiter who will review your CV and do a phone interview. The next round is a first pass kind of technical discussion where we want to hear about your experience, how you approach problems, how you work. There are no trick questions. We're going to ask probing questions, but we genuinely want to hear like your own answers, and we'll have a chat about what you say. And then there's a technical test. So the technical test is always the same problem, whatever the level. We're a Ruby house. We have a React front end and a Ruby backend, and I'm a backend engineer, so I'm involved in the Ruby engineer interviews. So we ask candidates to solve a small problem, should take a few hours in Ruby. It is challenging. We don't expect people to finish, but it's kind of up to the candidate to decide when to submit. And we'll review that code. If you pass that stage, you'll come in for kind of another technical discussion where we talk about your technical test, a pairing session where you'll solve a problem with an engineer talking to you and watching you code, and you can also ask them questions, and again, just want to see how people work. And then we do an interview where you get to meet some of the team as well, so you get to find out a little bit more about the wider business, and we get to know you a little bit better as a person. Does anyone have any questions about that type of process? No? All right.
I have a
Thank
question.
you.
I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
Just about you said you have a React front end and a Ruby back end. So is it a same question across 2 languages, or is it just the same question for Ruby? Like one for React, one for Ruby?
So I actually don't know how they conduct the front-end developer interviews, because I didn't go through that process, and I don't tend to get involved with the technical side. So I'm actually not sure what we ask our front-end devs to do. So I can only speak for the back end, but I do know that if you were applying for a front-end role, we wouldn't give a back-end technical test. That doesn't make any sense. We try to give something that's aligned with the role that you want to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of, exactly like Sophie said, there'll be different interviews depending on the role. And I think also with like technical tests, obviously some companies will do it with you. I know I recruit for OVO Energy quite heavily, and they do pair programming, systems design, and behavior during the interview. Some companies might do an at-home tech test. So every company's different in terms of sort of interviews, but yeah, they would have sort of a dedicated person who, say for example, it's a front end role, you'd have a front end interviewer 9 times out of 10. So it would be separately from, yeah, my experience.
So So Janet has commented like that sounds like a lot. I would agree. It probably is quite a lengthy process. We try to kind of condense it so the second technical discussion, pairing and meet the team all happen on the same afternoon, and people get breaks between those sessions. So we try, it's kind of a multi-stage process, but one of the reasons we have a part 1 and a part 2 technical discussion is we wanted to give candidates a chance to get to know us before doing a technical test, because a technical test is like quite a big undertaking. So we decided to split that out and see how that goes, whether it encourages people to take the technical test. And there was a question which was, where do people go wrong in interviews? I would say most of the time, it's not a case of people going wrong if they go through the interview process. It's more that something emerges that means they might not be a good fit for Clio. It doesn't mean they're a bad dev. It doesn't mean they can't code. We actually interview some amazing engineers that we think maybe they wouldn't be that happy at Clio. Maybe we're not going to give them what they're looking for in their next role. Or the way they approach problems doesn't quite suit where Clio is right now, because we're in startup growth mode. So we're looking for some quite specific things sometimes. But the biggest thing that I think people fall down on is not submitting a technical test. It's like by far the biggest dropout point of our process. And it's stressful, right? So I would say if you get to a technical test stage, have a go and submit it, because even if the answer is no, you will get feedback and you can use that feedback to then do better next time. So it's just like getting information. And at a junior level, because I used to support job hunters who were junior, the biggest fall down was again around tech tests, and that would be not preparing enough. So if you got a tech test that was in PHP and you'd never done PHP before, take some time to like learn the language and learn how to solve problems before trying that technical test, is my advice.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. And I think just one more to add, obviously a lot of interviews are happening virtually at the moment. I had a candidate interview while they were climbing up Penny Fan in Cardiff. Don't do that. Don't do an interview while you're climbing a mountain. Even though it's virtual and you can have your phone, still set up exactly the same as if you were face to face. So no distractions. Of course they happen, we know, and managers do know distractions happen obviously at home, but make sure you've got water, make sure you've got fully charged on your laptop, because if anything does happen, like you forget to charge your laptop and then it dies, you're going to feel so flustered, nervous, and then things will probably come out wrong and you'll just be all over the place. So it should take half an hour to set everything up as exactly like you were if you were face to face. So and make sure your network's all good and everything like that, and not going to get a delivery halfway through. Cool. I think we're going to wrap up. I'm just going to send you like my favorite picture that I live by, that I hope you'll like. You might think I'm a bit weird, but I really like it. I've just sent it in the chat rather than sharing screens. But this is yeah, something that I just go by, that I really like, but I'm a child at heart. So yeah, if there's any questions, said there'll be some things going around, and I'll put everything together and share it with you next week. I'm sure there'll be loads of links and everything. But yeah, thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of the day, great weekend, and yeah, thank you.